demarcation and gathered 42 tenants of 114 apartments. Not a big number, but a bigger number than usual. And those 42 tenants took up the banner. And they organized the other tenants who were not getting involved. And then there were clear lines of demarcation. If you're not involved, don't come looking for help, because we're not going to give it. Just like in the Young Lords, we said if you get yourself in trouble because you got some drugs on you, you flying by yourself. You did something on principle, you pay the piper. But the truth is that organizing is giving time, getting people to understand the issues, and developing a structure as it keeps expanding. That when you are marching, you have your defense people on the sidelines. So that if anybody's going to try to provoke something, they're already on watch. We used to have people trained to be in the defense ministry. Trained in with nunchakas. What else did you all use for training?
I don't want to say it here.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
But we used to have training the same way we had people trained to do the education. The same way we had people trained to put out the newspaper. We all took on certain responsibilities that helped the movement to grow, that helped the movement to stabilize itself. That's why the Central Committee said we need to have a platform. How are we going to organize people to what? If you don't have a platform, we need to have rules so that people are disciplined in their actions, so that it's uniformed. And then when they see, because you know, there's 99% of the population that's being exploited and 1% that's benefiting. And we talk about all this thing about minorities. The first thing I teach my clients, we are not a minority, we are the majority.
You know, there was an example of what we're talking about here. It's a demonstration that we called for in East Harlem. And to our surprise, about 2,000 people came. And the police thought it was going to be just a few. And when they saw the 2,000 people, we told them, we're not going to march on the sidewalk. We're going to take the street. And that's precisely what we did. And the cops tried to like block us, and we just kept marching. And the sergeant told them, let them march. You know, because they were able to feel the tremor of movement. You got to remember that they have impulses too. They shit, bleed, and die just like we do. Okay, and they are not. They're not invincible. They were able to sign off on legislation. You know, and some of those legislations are mentioned in the video. The reason why we now have patient advocacy in hospitals is because of the Young Lords. The reason why we have tuberculosis testing is because of the Young Lords. And this is something that even the journals of the American Medical Society has admitted and gave credit to the Young Lords for doing it. WIC, the food program for poor families, WIC was the outcome of the work of the Young Lords. Okay, I can mention so many other things. You know, Latino studies in these colleges. You know, African American studies. You know, that was the work of you know of so much. You know, and not to you know neglect what happened in 1969 in City College, when Black and Puerto Rican students took over the university. And it's a monumental struggle because they took down the American flag and put up the Black Liberation flag and the Puerto Rican flag, and demanded free tuition, and demanded Black and Latin studies, you know. And now, because there is no movement, there are several states that are removing Black and Latino studies from their curriculum.
The history books.
such as in Arizona, they threw out Chicano studies because they say that it's violence. It promotes violence against white people. So they took away Chicano studies in occupied Mexican territory. Okay, yeah, because Arizona is part of Mexico. You know, in Arkansas, in the state of Arkansas, there's a bill to be discussed by the state legislature of that state, where they want to ban Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, which is, you know, it's become a monumental text of American history. They actually want to ban that book because it talks about facts that they are uncomfortable with us talking about. You know, so, you know, they will step over us when we let them, and they will go on a retreat when we gallop unitedly. And, you know, and that's the way it has always been. You know, again, I must stress, if you thought that we were coming to this, you know, discussion with a blueprint, there is none. There is no blueprint, you know, but there is the human spirit, and our history will definitely be a point of reference for many generations to come.
Well, our history gives you certain examples that you may wish to follow, like how to set up an organization.
Mm-hmm.
The Sociedad de Aviso Campo was about 7 people. The Young Lords ended up having hundreds of cadres, not only in New York, but in Connecticut, Philadelphia, even Puerto Rico. So it started with a few people. That's the saying that I like to put on my bio, that a small group of like-minded people are the ones that make change, because you begin to change. So if you're interested in doing something, be the beginner of that. You know, my landlord was abusing the tenants, and he almost caused an old lady who was 89 years old and blind a heart attack because he had some goons run into her apartment. That event led to the Tenants Association. It led to a block association. It led to expanding a class action suit that defends tenants. Now that's a reform, and we also need to understand that you fight for certain reforms, but you never lose sight of what the end goal is. Mm-hmm. And the end goal has to be the end of capitalism, because capitalism is oppressive worldwide and internally in America. And equality and freedom, and real freedom, not, yeah, you're free to, like,
Starve.
to starve, or you're free because you got a job, but you're dying. And I'm saying this from 64 years of living in America and seeing the changes, because I was there when I saw the doors and the hoses put on African American people and brown people who were Latinos from Puerto Rico. I was there and saw the kind of abuse that my mother had to endure as a Puerto Rican woman, single mom. And now I'm here today to see what my grandchildren's future could look like if we were to change the set of circumstances by changing the ideas. Because you're right, and so is Reynaldo, that we have this idea that we can't do anything because they're so powerful. Everything that was ever won was won because people said enough is enough and we're not putting up with this shit no more. And they organized and they made it happen. The civil rights movement, lots of people got beat up, lots of people got arrested, lots of people died. And it was a multicultural, multinational group of people. It wasn't all blacks, it was blacks and Jewish and Irish and people who had consciousness. That's why it's important to educate and persuade. You may not agree with me today, But tomorrow's set of circumstances may just teach you that what I'm saying has merit. And you leave it there, because everybody goes through their process at their own space and time.
We're almost running out of time. So are there any like, thoughts about things that you, may have questions about, during that period? Or maybe it's not a question, maybe it's something that you want to lay out.
I just want to know, like, where is there more we can read about when it comes to those tennis issues?
There is a book that's coming out, and it was written by a professor at Baruch College, and she's also an associate of ours. Her name is Johanna Fernandez, and it's on the history of the Young Lords. There are there's other literature.
There's a book called The Young Lords written by Darrell
Windsor. There is also one that just was recently published by Iris Morales.
It's called Through the Eyes of a Rebel Woman.
Ooh. I want that one.
And that's an important piece because the Young Lords, 45% of our membership were women. And when you talk about, usually when we talk about badass revolutionaries, and we were badasses, it's usually like the projection is men. And no, there was a time, and I'm not scared to say this, that I was being beaten by a police officer. And I was 15 years old. And he was really happy with his nightstick all over my head. And it was two sisters that were able to come out of nowhere to whack him off of me. And when he went tumbling down on the street, I knew that I was free, that I wasn't going to get killed.